It's 6 a.m. on the morning of March 11th. It's cold, a blistering negative 29 degrees with the wind chill. The icy wind burns your lungs and freezes the moisture in your breath instantly. An obvious question comes to mind. What would compel someone to put themselves in this type of situation?
There's something happening here.
Our search for answers leads us to a small, ice-filled gully where we find Tim Coleman, a search and rescue worker, an avid rock climber, and an ice climber.
I started ice climbing 4 years ago. What does it feel like to ice climb? For me, even though it's not a very fast sport, there's a lot of adrenaline. It's like a puzzle that you're trying to figure out. It's pretty methodical. You know, you just don't start wailing in the ice and start running up this cliff. You really have to look at the route, try to pick a route out, come up with a plan, and execute it. I try to take it one step at a time and try not to think too much ahead. I just like to focus on, you know, what's my next move going to be. I try not to let fear get involved in it.
Fear, it seems, is an item of constant discussion. While it is always present, each climber has a different opinion of it.
It's definitely pretty scary. On the one hand, you have these solid placements with your picks and your crampons, but you also have to consider the fact that at any moment it could all give way. I think that's the scariest part about ice climbing, knowing that you're basically climbing on an eggshell. Battling with fear is definitely hard, but you get accustomed to it.
Ice!
Ice protection is basically psychological protection. Theoretically, each screw will hold several thousand pounds, but I never want to take a fall on one. How much a screw will actually hold really depends on the ice conditions, how well you've placed it. There's really no way to tell without testing it. They frequently fail under a lead fall, and I never want to take a fall on one. Falling on ice really isn't an option. You have razor-sharp spikes on basically every part of your body. If you fall, even if your ice protection holds, you're still going to get seriously injured.
As any climber will tell you, trust is a key component.
Oh, it's the most important thing. You know, you need to really, your life is in your partner's hands and vice versa. I mean, you guys are a team. You're intertwined from the time you guys start to the time you top out and go home. Yeah, partners are very, very important, and they're hard to find. Good partners.
The thing I like about ice, though, worst case scenario, we're throwing in a beef bread and wrap off and call it a day.
How do you do that?
Beef bread?
I watched it on television once.
It quickly becomes clear that danger is an unavoidable aspect of climbing. As many climbers will tell you, injuries are fairly common among this close-knit group. As April nears, the ice begins to melt. Climbers must transition from ice to rock.
My name's Mike Murphy. I first got into climbing when I was in high school. Climbing to me is just, it's simple. It's one of those things where anyone can do it. I just fell in love with it. Like, I kind of took to it a little, like, naturally. And I was always athletic, so I had a good build for it. I was lean, I was lanky. I had good footwork when I was climbing and got more and more into it. But it was one of those things where it was just, nothing really mattered. I would get on a wall and it would just be me and the rock. Like, nothing mattered. It was really meditating. I could just sit on a problem and look up and just figure it out and just like be like, okay, if I put my hand here, then that opens up this spot and I can hand match there and then go up to the next. And just, it was one of those things where it's just, it was a challenge and it was almost a puzzle. I've never met anyone who said they didn't like climbing. There's a level of concentration there that you need to have, that you can't, like, if you lose your concentration or you're not there mentally and physically, like, it takes you out of it. But it's just one of those, like, you can have everyone just talking around you, but it's just noise. You're just focused on, okay, keep steady, keep loose, keep an alert readiness about it, and just kind of go with it.
When you're on the wall, you're so focused. You're not thinking about anything except your next move. Along with the sense of intense concentration comes this mental relaxation, an almost meditative state. There's definitely some really hard sequences. There's handholds, the sides of your thumbnail, one finger handhold. Sometimes you don't have any footholds at all and you have to get really creative. When you climb without a rope, you have to be in this incredibly focused state. You have to know that you won't fall. The moment a shadow of a doubt enters your mind, you've lost it. You just have to convince yourself that you can do it and erase that doubt from your mind. If you're not confident in yourself, you won't be able to do it. You'll get psyched out, and that's when accidents happen. I definitely pause and think about it from time to time. You know, the close calls that I've had, the injuries I've sustained. I try to learn from those mistakes, but you really can't think about them when you're up there.
So, if the consequences of failure are so high, why do people continue to climb?
There really isn't a rational reason. It's just something about climbing that draws me to it. Climbing is just an amazing feeling.
Totally worth the injuries. But from that one time, that like 1 out of 10 time you nail it, you're just on high. You're just on a high. And it just feels so good.
I know there's always that chance, always that risk that something could go wrong and you might not walk away from it. But you know what, for everything that climbing gives me, I think it's worth the risk.
Hey, check in on you guys.